Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. Been talking with my buddy Dave, who lives on Cayuga Lake, and I mention this quite often. But there's a tremendous learning process that takes place, at least on my part, with these conversations. And Dave is going out each day looking for lake trout and rainbow trout to a lesser degree now in Cayuga Lake, and he uses they call it a jigging technique, but this technique is he finds the right depth of water, and then he lets his jig go down to the bottom. In this case, it's usually 80 feet or more, and then reels it straight up. But Dave has all kinds of graphs where he can record and watch what the fish are doing. This is the new wave of fishing today. But there's a learning process that takes place in this, and he told me when I talked to him last that one of the things that he noticed, again, colors change every day, but the other thing that he noticed is that the fish, those fish that are reactive and stimulated by a lure coming down, if you have the right color, the right whatever, they will start to follow it up. And here's the point that I wanted to make, and I wanted you to be thinking about this. He says so often you can see the fish coming up, but they almost nip at the bait. They don't ingest it. They nip at the back of it. And this is something that trout do a lot. But I want to relate a story that my friend Russ told me. He and Melissa went out a couple days ago, and they went to a place they'd never been to before on the Raquette River. They found a place where they could launch their canoe, and it was in one of the reservoir areas above Colton, and he wasn't sure exactly where it was or what reservoir it was. So they go out there and they're fishing, and he said it was beautiful and it was a wonderful day, and he says we caught maybe 3 smallmouth bass, and they were small, and he said we were getting ready to leave, and Rust had this special spinner bait that we both have come very fond of, and he was bringing it in, and he said all of a sudden this giant fish came up behind it. And he said, I couldn't tell because they looked the same, whether it was a giant, a lunker, a record-setting northern pike, or a muskie. I would think it was probably a northern pike being in that part of the Raquette River. And he said what it did was it came up behind and it just started nipping at the back of the spinnerbait. It didn't really, he tried to hook it when it nipped, but the hook didn't go in it. And it actually bit off even the living rubber on the spinnerbait without getting hooked. And then it slowly turned and went back down to the bottom. Number one, they had no idea that a lunker fish like that lived in that water. And second of all, it reinforced the discovery that so often fish will nip. They'll come up, whether it's trout, whether it's northern pike, whatever, and they'll follow and they'll just nip at the back. Are they tasting? What are they doing? I'm not sure, but we've even got footage of a muskie coming up behind something, and it's opening and closing its mouth within, say, 1/8 of an inch from the bait, but not really getting it. So again, one of the mysteries of fishing that makes it all the more exciting, but one of the things that we can learn from. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.